These items are incredibly expensive, but they are going to be some of the best unlocks that you can get in RuneScape 3, which is why they hold their value. In this video, we're going to go through 10 expensive items and unlocks that you are going to want to have at some point in your RuneScape career, even if you have to put it on a shopping list to buy once you've made the money. But this video should be useful for everybody if you're just going to use it to go ahead and buy it right now if you have the money to do so, or if you're going to use it as motivation to come back and get it when you can afford it. So of course, I hope you'll find this video useful. Let's get started. Number one is going to be the Limitless ability. This is going to cost you around about 1 billion GP, depending on the price of Vital Sparks as of you watching this video. The price of this hasn't changed in a hell of a long time, and the reason for this is because it is insanely useful in a lot of situations. What Limitless is going to do is allow you to use threshold abilities with only needing to have 15% adrenaline. For anyone who doesn't know, you normally have to be over 50% adrenaline to use threshold abilities, but activating Limitless will give you a duration of 6 seconds where you can use any thresholds underneath that, as long as you have the required 15% that you would normally have to spend to actually use those abilities. The reason this is so damn valuable is that being able to use your thresholds earlier on in a rotation for, say, your Sunshine or your Death Swiftness or your Berserk could then mean that you're able to use it again before the actual duration ends. So, for example, if you use Sunshine and then an Adrenaline Potion and then you use Limitless, you can fire off a Wild Magic immediately, and then because you've used it so early on, you're able to use a second Wild Magic in that Sunshine before the duration runs out. This is incredibly important and can increase the amount of damage you can output by an absolute ton. When you combine this with other things such as the Fractured Staff of Armadil, for example, you are going to be increasing your DPS output a lot. There's other reasons that you would want to have this as well. For example, in situations where you don't have enough adrenaline, but you need to use a defensive ability like Devotion very quickly. You can use your Limitless and you can allow yourself to use Devotion below 50% adrenaline, meaning you can probably keep yourself alive in some situations. I can't count the amount of times this ability has saved my life from doing exactly this. Next up is another ability codex, but it is going to be called the Ingenuity of the Humans ability. This is something that is going to set you back around about 150 to 160 million GP. Right now, the last price check on this was 152 mil, but it was 20 days ago, so it could vary a little bit from this, but is around about there. Not quite as expensive as the 1 billion GP, but for the use that it gives to you, it's probably seen as rather expensive for what it is. However, I find this super useful, and it is definitely something you're going to want to get at some point. What the Ingenuity of the Humans ability is going to do is allow you to cast an ability with 100% hit chance. This means that no matter what, you will always land the next ability that you are going to use, or spell, or anything like that, guaranteed. It is going to land even if you are not on the correct combat style. This means that you can use things like a Seren God Bow, or you can use Smoke Cloud off of the actual combat style that matches it. So for example, a ranger that wants to use Smoke Cloud to increase the critical hit damage will have to have Ingenuity of the Humans to make sure that lands, because if you're using ranged armor and trying to cast a magic spell, your accuracy is too low, you will not land it. Same goes for if you want to use a Seren God Bow special attack but using magic or melee. You will have to use Ingenuity of the Humans before you cast the Seren God Bow spec, otherwise it's just going to miss. But this gives you that 100% hit chance, meaning that it will always work. This is something everybody's going to want to take advantage of, especially if you are, say, wanting to use Smoke Cloud off of the magic combat style, which at some point in the game, you are definitely going to want to do this. It's too important not to. The damage increase is massive, so you're going to need the Ingenuity of the Humans. To keep things flowing pretty nicely, we're going to move directly from there to the Seren God Bow as a switch. Now, people are going to use the Seren God Bow as a ranger anyway. At some point, it's going to be in your upgrade path. It is something you're going to want to get. The Seren God Bow has uses outside of just the ranger combat style because the special attack is so freaking good, and every combat style can absolutely benefit from having this in their inventory. As of right now, the last price check for this was about 4 days ago at 1.75 billion GP, 1,750 mil. This is pretty damn expensive, of course, just for a special attack. So while this is going to set you back a hell of a lot of GP, it is definitely going to be something that you are going to want to get at some point. You will notice the difference in your DPS with using this. It is a little bit difficult to use as a switch for off of combat style. There's a lot of keys to press, but learning this and taking advantage of it, high level PVMers would definitely recommend this at some point. Surprisingly, moving on from the SGB, we're going to look at Essences of Finality. Now, this is probably something I've mentioned in the past, but Essence of Finality is a really super useful item to have. This doesn't cost that much to get just one of them, but the thing is, as a high level player, when you're looking at investing a lot of money into improving your combat and stuff, you are going to be spending a lot of money on getting a few of these. As you can imagine, if you're a major, for example, you're going to want to have one for your Gothic Staff, you're going to want to have one for your Seren Godbow, which we've just talked about, and then there may be other situations where you want to have more as well. As a ranger, you've got your Darkbow, you've got your Eldritch Crossbow, you've got your Seren Godbow, and so as you can imagine, the amount of these Essences of Finality do tend to stack up. You may also want to get one for a Statius Warhammer switch, for which you can work on all combat styles again as well, and as you can see, these start stacking up pretty quickly. With these, the last price check was about 18 days ago at just under 300 million GP. These have sat around 300 mil though for a hell of a long time, probably about half a year, about that. So you can expect them to be around about that price for any time around this video's release. If you're thinking about getting a few of these, that's 300 million GP a pop, plus the weapon spec that you're going to put inside it. Some of the weapon specs are really cheap. Gothic Staff costs you nearly nothing. Darkbow really doesn't cost you much at all, for example, but some of them do get really expensive. So I would recommend, of course, if you do put an expensive weapon into this, maybe dye it with a color so you know which color it is and you don't accidentally overwrite it. Another endgame item that is going to be insanely expensive, in fact some of the most expensive combat items or items that even have a use in the game right now anyway, are tier 95 weapons. Of course, these are the newest released sort of upgrades and stuff that you can work towards, but they all have very unique special attacks on them that keep their value insanely high as well. At some point along the way, you've probably heard the name Fractured Staff of Armadyl, or the Bow of the Last Guardian, or the one for the combat style that you like hit people with sticks or something. I don't know, but that one exists as well. All of these do offer very unique special attacks that are going to be incredibly useful for boosting your DPS or just the way you actually deal with PvM as a whole. They're also incredibly fun to use, and so they are very, very desirable. This makes them insanely expensive, and I'm not going to list off all the prices, but these are definitely something you're going to want to take a look at some point and are 100% worth the GP investment that it is going to take for you. So again, this next one isn't too expensive to buy in the first place, but goddamn is it expensive to upkeep. Many of you guys probably already know this is going to be, and this is going to be the Grimoire. The Grimoire to buy right now is going to set you back around about 200 million GP. The last price check was almost a month ago at 215 mil. The G price is like 180 mil, so we can probably comfortably say somewhere in the middle at around about 200 mil. I'm afraid I can't get an exact price for you. 200 million GP compared to a 1.7 bill like bow, or compared to Staff of Armadyl, which is 2.4 billion GP, for example. This isn't too bad. 200 mil, hey, this isn't that expensive. Holy mother of frick, keeping this thing and running it is insanely expensive. To run a Grimoire, okay, to keep a Grimoire running is going to cost you just around about 9 million GP an hour. An hour, not just like just a one-off cost. 9 million GP an hour to run this thing. And yes, you're going to want to use this pretty much everywhere once you get it and once you unlock tier 95 weapons. As far as I'm aware, all tier 95 combat styles are pretty much grimlocked at this point, unless of course you choose not to use it and just lose some DPS. But if you want to be efficient, you want to get the most DPS you can, you want to use a Grimoire, and it is going to take that 9 million GP per hour directly out of your pocket, and you're going to hate it. You're going to freaking hate it. This is going to add up. This will be one of the biggest gold sinks you have for a long time. It sucks, but it is so freaking good. What the Grimoire is going to do for you though is increase your critical hit chance by 12%, which is by far the biggest increase in crit chance that you can get. But it also increases the critical hit damage cap from 12,000 to 15,000, which means that you're not losing out on any extra damage as well. And then you can stack this with Smoke Cloud to then increase this even further. This is a really important upgrade for a lot of people who are wanting to push into endgame PvM, like these really difficult bosses and trying to get faster kill times and make as much money as possible. Yes, this is going to cost you like 9 mil an hour to run, but using this and getting yourself to be able to kill those bosses easier and more often, it will pay itself back. So yes, you should spend 200 million GP to get one of these, and then you should also keep it running as well, as long as you're in the position to do so. Like, don't be doing this when you've got like tier 70 weapons. This is silly. But if you do have tier 95 weapons, if you are in a position where you know this is going to be good for you, then you should definitely take advantage of it. Moving on to number 7, we are going to be taking a look at tier 99 curses, the Praetorian Codex. The Praetorian Codex has taken a little bit of a spike in price lately because of necromancy, but this is going to set you back around about 900 to 925, maybe 950 mil, around about this floating point as of right now. Now, this may sound expensive, but it's kind of worth it, and I wouldn't doubt it for a second. Getting one of these changed the entire experience of PVM for me, and I put it off way too long back in the day when I got mine for the other styles. Going from tier 95 prayers, DPS prayers, to the tier 99s, which is Malevolence, Desolation, or Affliction, is a huge DPS increase. I don't know, dude, you notice it. You notice this big time. It is something you're going to want to invest in, as it is going to be a major part of actually doing PVM and getting faster kills, which then leads to more money because you can kill the bosses quicker and more often. Makes killing bosses easier as well, if you consider the fact that if you have DPS checks, getting through those is easier. This is just an item that should be on every PVMer's expenses list. It's 1 billion GP, about, pretty much, like, let's be honest, 940, 950 mil. You just round it up to 1 bill, but it is absolutely worth every single penny, in my opinion. And yes, for anybody wondering, it has been confirmed that this will be a thing that is useful for necromancy as well. There will be a tier 99 DPS curse for necromancy, so if you don't have one of these ready for necromancy, it might be worth grabbing one, because they may just go up again even more. We don't know yet. They may go down, they may go up, we don't know, but I can only imagine that when it does come out, there's probably going to be another spike. That's what my brain would tell me, but again, I don't merge. Who knows? Here's one that I absolutely hate. Best in slot perks. I can't give you a value on how expensive this is going to be because it is RNG. This is why I hate it. But getting best in slot perks through invention for your gear is going to be a massive upgrade, and it's also going to be a massive hole in your money pouch, because you can go really, really unlucky on this, or you could be that lucky little piece of that gets it straight away and goes, hey, innit, I know you rolled 9 times for Aftershock 4 Equilibrium 2, and you still settled for Aftershock 4 Equilibrium 1 because you didn't get it, for fucking crying out loud. And look, I got it on my first roll. But either way, getting best in slot perks is going to be a huge upgrade, and you definitely want to have this on your list of things to do. It is going to be expensive though. Rolling for some of these perks can be insanely expensive, and if you are going to then be getting switches, for example, you're going to want to have something on your Coroming switch, you're going to want to have something on like your Crypt Bloom armor if you use magic and you have DPS armor and tank gear. You could have something on your dual wield weapons and your two-handed weapons. There's a lot of stuff, and it's going to all pile up, and you could just go terribly unlucky on this, and it could set you back hundreds and hundreds of millions of GP. Hopefully not billions, but if it does, it does. It is what it is. Like, you just gotta keep rolling that dice and hoping that you get it. Either way, best in slot perks, add them to your list because you're gonna want to get them. Number 9 is going to be a lovely, kind of easy one actually, not as expensive, but definitely something you want to get, and that is going to be the Greater Sunshine or Greater Deathswift Abilities Codexes. These aren't too expensive, like I say, they are not like your billions and billions, but they are going to set you back around about 342 million GP as of the last price check for Greater Death Swiftness, and unfortunately, mages, it's not looking good, dude. The last one was 3 days ago, it's 635 mil. Now this is shot up massively from around about 300 million GP a month ago. So if this is actually accurate or not, I cannot tell you. I'd be careful with this one. That's a double price pretty much. So it could be between 300 and 400 mil. It could be 600 mil. But 3 days ago, it price checked at this, and that was the last thing I can check for you guys. But what this thing is going to do is allow you to get the greater versions of Sunshine and Death Swiftness, which basically just means that you no longer have to use a Planted Feet perk when you use one of these abilities. Planted Feet would extend the duration of it, but remove the damage per tick that it did on the actual target, but now you can get both. You will have the extended duration and the damage that you would deal for having the Sunshine or Death Swiftness on the target, it will still be there. So this is a better version overall. It is expensive, it reduces the switch, so it's definitely worth it in my opinion, but they are pretty pricey for what they offer. Like, you could still just use a 20 mil switch. So you could do that, or you could spend 300 mil or 600 mil maybe, if it actually is that much, to get this version. I have them both. I think they are definitely worth it in my opinion, but what do you guys think about this one? I'm interested in hearing what you guys reckon. Before we get to number 10, if you're enjoying this content, if you enjoy the content as well from this channel, and you want to get yourself some more of it, there's around about 12 videos over on my Patreon, which you can get access to for just chucking $1 over and supporting the channel. So if you're interested in doing that, one, it would be insanely appreciated, so thank you if you do, and two, you'll get yourself some content that you wouldn't normally see here, and of course I plan to keep on posting more content there as time goes on. So if it sounds like your sort of thing, then maybe check it out, there's a link in the description, but let's get to number 10. Finally, we are going to talk about 3 abilities that are going to be super useful for you to get your hands on. They're going to help you out in outputting a lot more DPS, and while they aren't really necessary, they are going to be a huge help. These are going to be the Demon Slayer, the Undead Slayer, and the Dragon Slayer ability codexes. Now, these aren't overly expensive individually, like some of them are less than 100 mil, but collectively you are going to be looking at around about 300 million GP to get these. Now, the reason that I've included them in the expensive thing is because while they do increase your damage a hell of a lot by like 15%, for the duration of it, it is something that you're going to have to consider for very specific things. For example, Dragon Slayer ability codex is only going to increase your damage against dragons, and you may not really need that. Like, it's not an investment that is going to pay itself back hugely until you're doing that content that it is needed for. Undead Slayer is really only used for like ED3 as far as I'm aware, and in the terms of using it anywhere else, and for PVM specifically, it's good for Slayer, for like Undead Slayer tasks, but it's going to increase you that damage for like Taraket, for certain things in ED3, but otherwise it's not a big deal. Demon Slayer is obviously good for clearing through Elite Dungeon 4 and any of the demon monsters you want to kill, but again, these are very specific things that you're going to be using it for, and so that's why I've included it in the expensive things, because you're probably not going to want to pick these up until a little bit later on, and even when you do, if you get them all, it's going to set you back a fair amount. But these are going to increase your damage, like I say, by 15% to the specific type by 10 seconds. They are super useful in some niche places, and you will get some incredible damage out of them. 50% is not anything to laugh at all for the price that it is, and while it is only 10 seconds, if you throw this in the best part of your DPS rotation with Death Swiftness, with all of your thresholds and stuff, yeah, you're going to get a lot of damage out of this. You're going to see a huge difference, and it's definitely something worth grabbing. And there you go, there's 10 very expensive items that are going to be damn useful to unlock, and some of the most useful unlocks in the game, in my opinion at least anyway. But if you found this video useful, please do leave a like on it. Do sub to the channel if you are new around here. Is there any of these that you still need to get, or do you have all of them? And which one do you love the most? If you can think of any more, drop them in the comments down below for others to find as well. And before we do go, channel members and patron subs, thank you all so much for the extra support on the channel. I really do appreciate it. Your names will have been on screen during this outro. You guys are keeping me full time right now and keeping the content coming, so thank you all so much. Like I say, it's appreciated. But otherwise, everybody else watching as well, thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you, and I'll catch you all in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye.